Welcome to the biggest winners of patch 040. In the last league, we made dozens of amazing builds, and every single one of them got stronger with the update. Let's begin with our explosive shot Deadeye, and for all these builds, I'll also have the guide in the description below, which updates act by act with actual equipment, skills, passives, all of it. The explosive shot Deadeye is all about using your explosive shot to literally one-shot spam everything down on tier 16 maps, while you reload automatically by heavy stunning enemies. And this gets boosted by your tailwind, making you faster, reload quicker in case you actually did not stun someone. And if you're then fighting a boss, you can spam him with all your grenades and, well, go for so many explosions that your frame rate will drop to non-existence. Now, how is this getting even stronger? First and foremost, we're losing 30% damage reduction, which is annoying, but enemies don't even touch me, so that doesn't matter at all. And our tailwind loses 10% attack speed plus 50% evasion rating, which technically means we're actually getting weaker. However, our skills fire bonus projectiles. That obviously works very well for our explosive shot. And in patch 040, we're getting the Mirage Deadeye Ascendancy passive skill. This will exactly work like the Mirage Archer. What does the Mirage Archer do? You dodge roll, a Mirage is being created, and you socket a projectile skill in there that the Mirage then shoots out. This can be simply used for your flash grenades, gas grenades, explosive shots, whatever you feel like. Now, the problem with the Mirage Archer is that you kind of have to time your dodge rolls so you actually get the reset and can then really always get it up. The advantage with the Mirage Deadeye skill is, while active, firing a ranged attack projectile will create a mirage that uses socketed ranged attacks for a short duration. I simply have to exist, run around and shoot my things, and I will already get the mirage helping me, instead of having to time my roll and then not roll all the time until I roll again. Nah, my clearing will pretty much just get faster with a zero conditional bonus. But what should I slot now into that Mirage skill for my explosive shot build? As you can see, we're playing the explosive grenade together with gas grenade, flash, and the oil, because all of these really nicely work with each other to completely overwhelm a boss explosion-wise. The one thing I'm not playing is the voltaic grenade, which would actually add shock to the fray and give me another damage multiplier. Slotted together with payload for that bonus explosion, because the cooldown recovery rate shouldn't matter on your Mirage. It's just going to be bop, 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 shooting empty, then you make a new one, bop, 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 shooting empty. Together with a short fuse for quicker explosions and elemental armament for more damage. And suddenly we have a good build that clears everything, and even better. And since we're talking about Ranger, why not look at the second ascendancy, which would be our good old friend, the Pathfinder. The way we've been playing the Pathfinder is with gas grenade, because gas grenade is absolutely deadly. Not only killing everything on the map while you just keep running around, it also just chunks bosses down with billions and over millions of DPS. It is crazy. Honestly, quite one of my favorite builds out there this season. And all of this works with elemental damage being turned into poison damage. And that poison is being spread to everyone, if we then play the right spirit skill, because they actually took away our contamination, the most damaging poison spreads. However, this allows us to, with only 2 points, get to overwhelming toxicity. And then instead of playing the contamination, we simply add a Herald of Plague that does the same as the contamination, spreading the highest damaging poison. With these 2 points saved and Thawing Campfire gone, we could invest in the bottom here for more skill speed, and at the same time, less movement speed penalty from using skills while moving, and running Assault Grants cannot get heavy stunned while sprinting. Pretty nifty, making me a zoomy boomy bastard. But we have another thing. They reworked Traveler's Wisdom to allow me to start from the Warrior side passive points and from the Mage side passive points in case I want something from there. Could easily access it now instead of having to do some weird travels. However, the real interesting part is the new updated Traveler's Wisdom that comes after the Path Seeker passive node that's being added. This will allow me to turn passive nodes into bonus damage, bonus defense, or skill cost efficiency. And right now, my current Pathfinder build has 30 into much, 20 dex, and 40 strength that I do get from my passive nodes. If I could now turn this into 5% increased damage, 5% increased damage, 5%, and so on. Meanwhile, we're also getting 200 plus new passive nodes that might finally be something poison related. The build already has been the easiest Arbiter clear I've had with the lowest budget, and the only thing we pretty much needed was the Plague Fingers, for all damage from hits contributes to poison magnitude, and then we could take the weirdest crossbow with lightning fire damage, because all of this is poison magnitude now. Now let's throw an eye on our Huntress, which has been using a crossbow to rain siege cascades on everyone. Yep, siege cascade pretty nifty. However, that's not even what we're using for boss killing. For boss killing, it was a combination of using the Riven armor together then with spamming out our absolutely high super attack speed frag rounds for some Riven armor breaking madness. Pretty cool combination of skills, especially since we're using a crossbow that costs you one single exalted orb. Now, what is getting stronger about this build? And that would be them buffing the siege cascade, because obviously it wasn't strong enough, it wasn't already clearing easily enough. This is not only empowering our Amazon, also the Tactician heavily profits from this. Siege Cascade, currently on quality, gets 80% more damage against immobilized enemies. That's a multiplier. And immobilized is an enemy that's heavy stunned, electrocuted, pinned, or frozen. Pinned. Well, pin is pretty easy, isn't it? Or in the case of me using the Siege Cascade, heavy stun with a stun support and then the double barrel for easy reloads. I do mention pin though because the Tactician with a single Ascendancy node can already pin everyone on projectile use. Now the Siege Cascade is getting an inherent 100% more damage against immobilized enemies. You don't even need to quality it up anymore. You choose the skill and you already have that 100% bonus. On top, they're adding or nerfing the 80% down to 40%. Which means the quality up, I get now 140% multiplicative more damage on my Siege Cascade. Probably one of my favorite builds last season because, again, it works with a level 1 crossbow killing the Arbiter of Ash. Now, another staple of the past season has been the Mortar Mercenary. Quite fun, even if it's kinda racking your FPS. But putting these totems down and seeing all the explosions while you just simply keep zooming over the map has been nothing but brilliant fun. And then actually use your explosive shot if you feel like it to add some bonus. Hey, they even promised they're improving the FPS, so hopefully mortar builds and everything are not going to make your console overheat and sound like a jet engine. Technically, this build received a massive buff with the strategic embankment getting an update. Since Artillery Ballista would give you now increased skill speed, and Siege Ballistas would grant you 25% more damage against immobilized enemies, which is a multiplier, while the Mortar Cannon gives you 25% of damage gained as extra fire damage. However, in order to get the embankment aura that works on all your totems and yourself, you have to go over the Cannons Already node, and this gives you a number to maximum summon totems, but totems only use skills when you fire an attack projectile. And that's still not a good thing, because it requires you to actually put down your totems and then start shooting for them to even act, which is horrible. I want my totems to shoot the moment I put them down. Why do I even mention this build then? Well, it's pretty simple because it didn't get nerfed in any singular way. If you've been enjoying this, or if you always wanted to play the Mortar playstyle, it's still there, and it's clapping. On the other hand, we have my favorite of the last season. That would be the Fissure Warrior with the totems going for beautiful clears, doing mostly fire damage, which made the actual minus armor that you could achieve with a Warbringer not so useful. Sure, your actual spirits are amazing, right? Everyone loves to have the spirits out, and we could use the hammers and all of this together, and it's great. But breaking armor then below 0 didn't actually do what you were hoping for. This changes. If you now break armor with all the damage that you deal, and then choose Imploding Impacts that says you can break armor to below 0, it also says Imploding Impact now grants fully broken armor you inflict increases all damage taken from hits instead. All damage taken. And we are doing fire damage. And then we have the shockwave totems trigger even more fire damage. Plus the earthquakes and the forge hammer. And our ancestral cry giving us even more fire damage triggers. That then work subsequently better than ever before. Not only that, in their almighty wisdom, they decided that the Fissure Warrior wasn't strong enough. So the actual Volcanic Fissure is now buffed by another 20% bonus damage. While the Ancestral Cry also does more damage now, twice as much damage, but it triggers less footsteppy super wombo combo explosions. This brings us to a sad loser of the patch. We used to have our Hollow Palm Monk that was absolutely nasty. zooming forward, putting down the bell, shattering palm. You could play it in multiple ways, and it was just brilliant, especially due to the very high attack speed that you're getting, and then strike, 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 and elemental overwhelm everyone. Yeah, we all loved Hollow Palm last season. And they technically buffed it by saying base unarmed attack time is now 1.65 per second instead of 1.4. However, the real attack speed from Hollow Palm comes from the scaling 1% more attack speed per 25 item evasion rating on equipped armor types. And I do have quite some evasion rating going on for that bonus, and that wasn't even the max you could reach. There's way more available. Now that 25 per is down to 75 for 1% attack speed. With my measly 1200 evasion rating from items, I was currently sitting at 48% bonus attack speed. This would translate now to a measly 16% bonus. That sucks. Big time. This brings us to happier times though, and the Blood Mage. Currently, we would be playing a Lightning Spear build that bleeds and spreads poison at the same time, while using elemental damage for that. And it couldn't be funnier because you just throw those lightning spears and they're arcing everywhere. And then, well, you're shocking enemies and they bleed and they poison and they explode because of the Herald and Blood and Plague combination together. And if you do actually fight something more sturdy, you can still rake to go for the super rake dead bleeding, especially if you use that against bosses. Now, nothing get buffed about the Lightning Spear or the Rake and Blood Hunt. Even the Blood Mage is mostly the same, apart from preventing enemies to regenerate life with Whispers of the Flesh. However, we're getting 200 passive nodes bonus that will most likely have something poison and bleed related, and they're reworking the Explosive Spear, a different kind of spear, that now says gain one limit of lodged spears every 8 gem levels. With level 24, that would be plus 3 spears. And it does also have 100% increased ignite magnitude, which means instead of throwing lightning spears, or what means instead, on top, we can now choose an explosive spear that does elemental damage, and all our elemental damage is poison magnitude. And all our elemental damage is also bleeding magnitude. This would give us a 100% physical to fire damage ignite explosion with bleed, with poison on the opponent. Oh, I can't wait for these shenanigans. All these build breakdowns you can find in the description below. Now go watch this video on possible druid combinations that will get your blood even more pumping. Enjoy.